Welcome to the first of a hopeful many Bleach what-if scenarios. I enjoy writing, whether I'm good at it is up for debate, but I want to throw my hat in the ring of the what-if conversation. As you can tell, the title of this video, I'm doing probably the most spoken about what-if from the Arrancar arc, aside from Ukiura. Before I get into it, please like and subscribe, folks. Help me get to that 100 sub mark, and if you like this content from me, please leave a request for the next what-if video, and stick around to the end to hear about my giveaway announcement. So our story begins just after the defeat of Sosuke Aizen. Karakura Town defenders are all gathered to see Ichigo triumphant in his defeat of Aizen. So here I'm going to give Ichigo a couple minutes before his body shorts out like it did in the manga. Seriously, Ichigo's body checked out like a hard drive dropped in a pool. Now, I had to find a way to save Gin, and the simple answer was Orihime. Lucky for me, Ichigo and Urahara, as seen in these panels, walked back to Karakura Town, giving me a Hail Mary chance to save him. Rangiku, feeling the presence of Orihime and knowing how powerful her healing capabilities are, would flash up to where she is, wincing in pain while she does it. Remember, Rangiku's body still had not fully recovered. She grabs Orihime and with tears in her eyes and a frantic voice she begs Orihime to come with her. She tells her that someone needs to be healed. Rangiku has always been gentle and kind and emotionally intelligent. She would never force Orihime. Orihime would first look to Ichigo worried, but Orihime's kind heart would never allow her to deny a friend in need, especially not Rangiku. No words are exchanged. Rangiku flash steps Orihime back to where Gin is. Even though Gin was an enemy, Orihime doesn't hesitate. She begins to heal Gin, but not sure if she can. He may be too far gone. Orihime had healed Minoli from death, but this is slightly different. Aizen's residual spirit energy and Gin's wounds fight against her rejection power, but as Aizen surmised, not even a god's power can stop her. Kisuke shows up carrying Ichigo, but instantly requests that Orihime stop, not wanting to put another criminal back into the world. Unfortunately, no one is fully aware of the circumstances around Aizen killing Gin, nor Gin's true motives and intentions. Ichigo, however, requests that Gin be allowed a second chance, sort of piecing together what actually happened. Gin's body is restored, and so too is his consciousness. Being at peace when he died, he calmly wakes to seeing the face of Rangiku and Orihime. Kisuke was in no position to refuse, but he wanted to know why Aizen turned on Gin. A revived Gin doesn't want to say the reason in front of Rangiku, so Gin promises to tell Urahara later. This doesn't sit well with Rangiku, and she demands to be told. Gin responds with a question: would knowing the reason make you hate me any less? Rangiku fought with herself about turning Gin in, but eventually settled on letting him go. Letting everyone think him dead will be better for everyone, including Kira. From then on, Rangiku and Gin wouldn't see each other. Rangiku can't forgive Gin for what he did, nor can Gin live to see what he did to Rangiku. Everything Gin did under Aizen was to kill him and to take back what belonged to Rangiku. He accomplished neither of those things. While assisting Aizen in his crimes, Gin is fully aware of what he did. Kubo, through his poems he wrote between Gin and Rangiku, acknowledges that he did do things wrong. So I believe Gin would try to live out his life away from everyone as punishment for himself. So now here's the fun bit. Time jumping to the 1,000-Year Blood War. First problem, getting Gin into the Sternritter, which I don't think will be difficult. From what we see of Jidambo being controlled by Pepe in the first invasion, and no confirmation that the other gate guardians were replaced, Gin would be able to get through one of the gates. Also, yes, if you didn't know, there are other gate guardians. They did attack Sokyoku Hill and the Soul Society arc, and Kukaku defeated them while they were under the control of Kyoka Suigetsu. So, for the most part, the entire opening of the 1,000-Year Blood War plays out the same. The first invasion gets underway, and Gin, who's been hiding in the Rukongai, in his old village where Rangiku and him lived, feels the presence of the Sternritter's invasion. He doesn't know what's going on, and earlier he witnessed Squad 12 soldiers slaughtering Rukongai citizens, which was definitely out of the ordinary, so something is happening. Against his better judgment, he decides to check it out, if only to see Rangiku is okay. He makes his way to the Sternritter, making sure not to be seen by Rukongai citizens who may recognize him. Gin would have ditched Aizen's white clothes and substituted them for humble rags. By the time he gets to the walls protecting the Sternritter, the first invasion is coming to an end. He can't discern whose spiritual pressure belongs to who, but he can feel the drying out air and the day becoming hotter than he's ever felt in Soul Society. If he recognizes one spirit signature, it's the head captain's, and Gin guesses that this effect is his Bankai. Gin makes sure his Nanpakuto and his sheath are snug inside his top before he tries to enter. He tries to find a way to open one of the gates, but is approached from behind by a stranger. The stranger turns out to be Kukaku Shiba. She explains to Gin that Kisuke Uehara gave her a heads up that Gin Ichimaru was living in the Rukongai and to watch him. They recognize each other, and Kukaku, understanding the dire situation, motions for a bunch of citizens to help her open the gate before Gin can even plead his case. She guesses that Gin doesn't have bad intentions, and he hasn't moved from his spot in the Rukongai since he left the Sternritter. Clearly something big is happening that he isn't a part of. Even if he were to be part of Aizen breaking out, Gin was probably just trying to kill him anyway. She understands the Gote may need help, and that's just one less chore if he gets caught. The one-armed woman helps Gin slip into the Sternritter while it's under attack. Once inside, Gin pauses to see all the destruction that Sternritter had wrought. Gin notices whoever the head captain was fighting was dead now, so that probably meant the situation would be handled shortly. He tends to leave. He sees explosions off in the distance, but then his attention is drawn to the heat disappearing. Suddenly, a new powerful enemy appears. He's as strong as Aizen was before the Hogyoku, maybe even stronger. He can feel the power of two combatants, and he recognizes the head captain's power has dwindled. Suddenly, the head captain's spiritual pressure disappears. The head captain is dead, and that's the worst possible thing that could happen. Gin doesn't panic, but internally, his worry meter is at a full 10. He speeds through the Sternritter trying to find Rangiku's energy signature. More spirit signatures seem to start popping up out of nowhere, and Gin tries to focus on Rangiku. He grabs a hold of her spirit ribbon and follows it to her. Out of nowhere, Soldat soldiers pop up and attack Gin. Gin doesn't waste any time slicing through these groups of weaklings. Gin would take on the Espada and damage Chrysalis Aizen, so no foot soldier will be able to last a second against him. Gin was a bit rusty, but his prodigious talent was surpassed only by Aizen himself, so even a rusty Gin was more than a match for anyone. Gin was lucky enough to use the correct gate, seeing as Rangiku was close, but he feels another spirit signature that isn't Captain Hisugaya's. Gin realizes the person they're fighting is too powerful for the both of them. Gin also wonders why isn't Toshiro using his Bankai. When Gin shows up, he sees a dark-haired man with bladed claws for weapons. He had unusual spirit energy, and it was the Sternritter Kangdu, but he didn't know this. This is where Gin's presence begins to change the course of the story. Toshiro gets distracted by Gin's presence and yells, "Ichimaru!" before getting blindsided by Kangdu. Toshiro flies into nearby rubble, out cold. This speed even surprised Gin. Rangiku is momentarily frozen in place between seeing Gin and watching Toshiro get knocked out. Kangdu makes a move at the shocked Rangiku, and Gin steps in and deflects Kangdu's blade away from her. Gin takes a swipe at Kangdu, causing the Sternritter to jump backwards, gaining distance and elevation. Gin puts up his usual snake-like facade. Kangdu looks at Gin confused. He knows he's seen that sickening smile before, but can't place it. That's when Ichigo Kurosaki bursts through the opening created by Akon. Everyone in the Sternritter reacts to Ichigo's spiritual pressure, covering the entirety of the Soul Society, and the sudden disappearance of Sternritter Shaz Domino. Ichigo's spirit energy disappears, heading toward the fading Byakuya. Gin takes a chance. Taking advantage in his opponent's distraction, shoots a kill. Shinzo. Gin fires his Shikai blade at the head of his opponent. The tip of Gin's sword slams into the Sternritter's head with tremendous speed and force, knocking the Sternritter from the sky. While Gin is retracting Shinzo, Rangiku points her Zanpakuto at Gin's back. She tells, "Don't move." "Why did you come back?" Gin simply responds, "Isn't your captain more important than two outlaws fighting each other?" When she realizes she's been too focused on Gin, she kicks herself mentally. But before she leaves, Rangiku warns Gin, "Do not use your Bankai, they will steal it." Rangiku isn't sure if they can steal more than one, but she warns him just in case. She flash steps to her captain and tries to heal Toshiro. Gin, for the first time in a long time, wears a genuine smile. Kangdu walks out of the rubble unscathed, but rubbing his forehead, which is slightly red. Gin mockingly remarks, "I'm surprised your head didn't burst open from that attack. You're a creepy guy." That's when Kangdu gets irritated. Gin's taunts and disturbing smile begin to get to him. This is when Kangdu reveals, "I am Kangdu of the Sternritter, and the shrift that His Majesty bestowed upon me is I, the Iron. My skin can never be penetrated or cut by a Soul Reaper's blade. But before I kill you, what is your name?" Gin coyly responds with a dark grin on his face, "I am nobody." Kangdu launches into a flurry of attacks at Gin. He pushes Gin backwards, slamming his claws into Gin's Zanpakuto. With a flurry of clawed strikes and kicks thrown, Kangdu backs Gin up further. Ice wings sprout from Kangdu's back as he says Bankai, and the Quincy uses Guncho Suara. This catches Gin off guard. Dozens of ice daggers fly at him. Gin bats them away with his sword and dodges the rest. Kang throws a jumping kick which misses, and Gin pauses, noticing blood from his own arm and face. The art shards grazed him. Gin doesn't like being pressed, so he decides to change the situation. He can't win if he lets his opponent control the battle. Both men clash blades atop a building, and Gin uses a flurry of jabs and swipes with his Zanpakuto, trying to put Kang-do on the defensive. In an attempt to counter Gin, Kang covers his arm in iron and deflects the Zanpakuto with one arm, causing the Zanpakuto to vibrate violently, not allowing for a clean recovery. Kang thrusts his clawed hand forward, and Gin jumps backwards, just out of reach. Properly gripping his sword, he fires Shinzo at Kang-do again. Kang takes the attack directly to the chest, not having enough time to dodge, but covers the impacted area in iron skin, protecting him from the piercing blow. Although he was protected, the force slams Kang-do through the building, demolishing it in the process, and into the ground, creating a small crater. Gin retracts Shinzo and lands on the ground just outside the crater. The smoke clears. What was that about not being pierced by me? A giant Quincy cross emblem appears behind Kang-do, who is getting up and dusting himself off. Kang-do snaps his finger and begins to sink into his own shadow. His Majesty has called off the attack. You are lucky. Kang-do rips open his top and shows his unharmed skin. Until I see you again, Kang says menacingly. Gin playfully waves at Kang-do as his head goes under.
Bye-bye!
Gin turns around and is met with a sudden burst of ice and metal ash surrounding him. Toshiro looks at Gin angrily. Don't move, Ichimaru. Hanako and Hyorimaru. Gin knows he's in a disadvantageous position. He won't fight Rangiku. However, he thinks being locked up until the next invasion might be his best option. Don't worry, Captain. I'm turning myself over to your custody. Gin raises his hands. Toshiro looks at him confused by his words. Gin, do you mean it? You'll turn yourself over to us? Rangiku responds dead serious. If this were Toshiro from Fake Karakura Town, he would have attacked Gin and not given him a chance. Rangiku binds Gin's hands and arms with a Bakudo, and they take Gin to be held at the Squad 10 barracks to await trial. After their crushing defeat, the Gotei lick their wounds, and the story proceeds as usual. The only difference being is everyone is now aware of the traitor Gin Ichimaru's presence at the Squad 10 barracks. Soifone, Sajin, and the visored captains loudly display their displeasure, but Jushiro, Shunsui, and Toshiro protest that they should wait for the Central 46. Just after the promotion of Shunsui to head captain, Shunsui decides to pay a visit to Gin. Shunsui walks in with both of his new lieutenants in tow. Toshiro, Rangiku, and other Squad 10 soldiers follow in after them. Gin gets up and approaches the bars, sporting his ever-present grin. Gin would like to stop the smile, but he's done it for so long it's become second nature. He keeps up the facade and jokes, all this for little old me? No one is smiling. Nanao Issei clears her throat and tells Gin that he's addressing the new head captain and that he should watch his tone. Shunsui looks at Gin and asks him if he would like his freedom, which shocks everyone present, including Gin. Gin was expecting to survive at least a couple days while the fighting kept going, and at worst, he'd break out, but now they're asking for his help. Shunsui gives an explanation very similar to the one he's going to give later for Aizen. They need Gin, and it may abstain his execution at least for a bit, because he doesn't share the benefit of immortality that Aizen does. Shunsui states, clearly he is here for a reason. I don't particularly care about the whys and hows. He protected Captain Hitsugai and Lieutenant Matsumoto, and I doubt there's any love lost between himself and Aizen. Gin is shocked and can't find the words to say, but he does ask one thing. Izuru, how is he? I haven't felt his spirit energy since I got here. Shunsui tells Gin that he is amongst the fatalities. This genuinely hurts Gin. He looks to Rangiku's face and sees the truth. For the first time, everyone sees Gin's facade drop. Gin quickly accepts the offer. If he can protect Rangiku and avenge Kira, he may get some level of redemption, at least to himself. They let Gin out and provide him with a shihakusho, but something else as well. Rangiku places bracelets and a collar on Gin. The thin black collar is a monster device similar to Kenpachi's eye patch. It has a set of eyes on it, and the bracelets are the same. If you harm any Shinigami, this monster will block your Ryatsu output and eat you alive. She leaves out that both her and Toshiro have a remote that can release the monsters or activate to kill them. There isn't anything romantic about seeing each other, just uncomfortable silence. Until Rangiku asks him the one thing she still never got an answer for. Why Gin? He knows what she's asking. I ask again, does it make a difference why? This time she pressures him. She knows the answer and she just wants to hear him say it. But Gin refuses to hurt her. Luckily, Toshiro walks into the room and tells Rangiku they need to train. Without Bankai, they need a way to defeat people. Gin follows him out, but Toshiro tells him he can't come. Gin offers to help train, but Toshiro points out, if you accidentally harm one of us, well, we wouldn't want you to lose your head. Gin agrees, but he insists on at least watching. He points out that he could learn a thing or two from the genius that is Captain Hitsugaya. Toshiro doesn't like Gin's mocking, but Toshiro allows him to come along because it allows him to watch Gin. Toshiro and Rangiku get information of the flame using Sternritter and begin to create tactics for the Sternritter they have information on. Gin also begins to strategize as well. At the Vandenreich HQ in the Schattenbereich, Kangdu kneels in front of Yuha and gives his report of the surprise visitor. Yuha and Drugum both recognize the description and abilities of the mysterious attacker. Drugum grimly says, "Gin Ichimaru, what a nuisance. I thought we confirmed Aizen killed him." Yuha says nothing but smirks in response. "Shall I add him to the special war list?" he asks Yuha. Yuha leans forward on his throne and asks Kangdu, "What do you think, my son?" Kangdu puts his fist to his chest. "No need, your majesty. His sword cannot pierce the gift you gave me. I will end him before he ever becomes a problem. I will also kill the entirety of Squad 10 if it pleases." Yuha grins and waves Kangdu away. He looks to Jugrum. "Have BG9 disperse Gin's information to the other Sternritter and all the available data we have on him, and gather everyone for a special announcement." Jugrum bows and does as instructed. Back at the Squad 10 barracks, Toshiro and Rangiku practice tactics that could become useful. After 2 days, Gin offers again to train with them, willing to teach Toshiro some new swordplay, and Gin even helps Rangiku increase her relationship with her Zanpakuto. When the time of the second invasion rolls around, Gin is getting food and not at the Squad 10 barracks. The Silburn and Seirete begin to flip, and Gin looks around shocked as much as anyone to see what's happening. He drops everything and tries to get back to Rangiku and Toshiro as quickly as he can. However, he is surrounded by Soldat soldiers who begin attacking the Shimigami around him. Gin has to choose help or leave them to their fate. Gin has always been singularly focused, and this has caused him no end of failure and grief. These people need him, and it's what Rangiku would do. For the first time, Gin puts others above himself and slaughters the Soldat soldiers. Back at the barracks, the Basby and Rangiku Toshiro fight continues as it did in the manga. However, before Basby delivers the Burner Finger 2 to finish Toshiro, he is stopped by a blast of Haineko's ash. Basby is swallowed up in a dust storm. Rangiku grabs Toshiro and pulls him to safety. However, Basby easily blows the ash away with a burning stomp. In the original fight, Rangiku was blindsided by Kangdu and nearly killed. Instead, Rangiku is saved by Gin, showing up in the nick of time to save Toshiro. Now the fight dynamic has changed. Rangiku sets Toshiro down and starts to put up a Keto barrier for him. Toshiro protests, but Rangiku tells him that Gin still has his Bankai and that they will handle them. Basby appears behind Rangiku and says, "You'll handle who now?" Gin fires Shinzo from a distance away, and Basby dodges backwards. He still prepares to fire Burner Finger, but Gin swings Shinzo at him, causing his shot to miss. Gin, who is engaged in battle, tries to retract his sword quickly, but takes a powerful kick from Kangdu, knocking him into one of the buildings. Gin firmly holds on to his Zanpakuto. Basby looks at Kangdu. "Go find some other prey. These 3 are mine." Kangdu responds how he did in the manga, telling Basby that they are to kill those who Bankai they stole. With that, Kangdu whispers, "Bankai," and Dagyun Horimaru springs from his back. Suddenly, the message for the Hollow Pill comes out, and Toshiro takes his, and now he is in much better health than he was originally in the manga with his fully restored Bankai. Basby's wish comes true, and he can now test his heat ability against Toshiro's Bankai. Gin walks out of the rubble with his Zanpakuto fully retracted. He grins and waves the dust from his face. Now, that ain't very nice." Kangdu is pushed back by Gin's speed blitz. He uses both of his claws to defend from Gin's onslaught. Rangiku rushes to help Toshiro against Basby. Gin focuses on the enemy in front of him. He has to get rid of this guy as quickly as possible because he knows Toshiro is at a disadvantage. Surprisingly, Kane creates just enough space and slams his fists together and uses Shizen Zao. A giant energy snake head appears and slams down, exploding on Gin, sending him backwards. The smoke it created covers Gin, giving him the opening he wanted. Kangdu flies upward, releasing his Volstandig, and completely covers himself in his iron skin, expecting Gin to attack. He prepares an even larger spirit energy attack. he will finish Gin quickly as he promised his Lord Yuha.
Bankai Kamishini no Yari.
Before Kangdu even realizes it, he is impaled through the chest. The smoke is blown away by the force of his Bankai activation. The speed and piercing power of Kamishimi no Yari penetrated Kangdu's iron skin. The pain and impact felt by Kangdu is delayed. By the time he reacts, Gin retracts the blade to himself instantly and smiles evilly. Kangdu descends from the sky slowly, his reishi wing slowing his fall. Blood pours from the mouth and chest of Kangdu. The right side of Gin Shihakusho is mostly burned away, exposing his arm and leg, which is burnt slightly as well. A massive wave of fire explodes to Gin's left, and Toshiro comes flying out of it, enclosed in his Bankai, and crashes near Gin. The ice is mostly melted away, and Toshiro has serious burns all over his body. Rangiku tries to rush to help Toshiro, but is shot from behind by a burner finger, dropping well before she even reaches him. Gin is now furious. He sees Basby wreathed in fire. Everything is burning up around him. What did I tell him? 2 burner fingers is all it would take. I see you beat Kangdu. How weak. Basby's flames die down and he approaches Gin. I heard you were a big shot who threw his lot in with Aizen. I hope you put up more of a fight than he did. Cause right now I got 2 lieutenants and a captain notched on my belt. To be fair, the blonde boy lieutenant with weird hair didn't see it coming. The arrows on Basby's glove glow and light up as he fires a burner finger at Gin. Gin flash steps past Basby's attack, landing a vicious blow, knocking him backwards. That was for Izuru. Gin flash steps next to Rangiku's body. He picks her up and flash steps away, keeping her at a distance. He can tell she can survive her injuries. He looks down at her. If I survive this, I promise to tell you. He hides her presence like he did when hiding her from Aizen. Gin flash steps back to where Basby was, waiting for him. Basby smirks. I'm gonna get you back for that. Your Bankai versus my burner fingers. Don't worry, I have no need to steal your Bankai. Let's see whose ability is stronger. Basby pulls out his medallion and incinerates it. Both combatants take their stance. Gin's spiritual pressure rocks the ground and can be felt across the Serete. Basby gleefully smiles at the strength of his opponent. Basby begins the motion to fire a burner finger. Gin says, Kamishini no Yari, and Basby just barely slips his head to the side and the blade misses. He fires the burner finger off balance and Gin slips the attack as well. Basby regains his balance and notices the blade had already retracted, which terrifies him. He knows the ability of his opponent's Bankai from BG9's data book. Both combatants trade attacks, and this dance repeats over and over again. Gin uses the debris as cover and his speed to try and tag Basby. 1 hit is all he needs, but Basby continuously amps up his burner fingers, getting all the way up to 4, which keeps Gin from getting a hit on Basby. The battlefield is now covered in flames, making it harder and harder for Gin to get a clear shot. Until, using a Kido to distract Basby, Gin is able to cut his arm, but Basby is able to get away before Kamishini Yari retracts. The reason Basby got off the hook was Gin's attention was pulled away from the fight. Kangdu suddenly appeared behind Gin, using Blut Veen to close his wound from earlier. He attempts to jump Gin from behind, and Gin doesn't even bother to look and just says,
Korose Kamishini no Yari.
Kangdu bursts open from the inside out. Kangdu's body falls to the ground, dissolving away, dead, and his soul returns to Yuha. Gin and Basby continue their battle, not even stopping when Renji and Rukia come back from the royal palace. Their battle has spanned most of the second invasion. The other battles have played out very similarly with slight variations. Unfortunately, things begin to favor the Sternritters due to the losses of Kensei, Rose, Soifone, and Sajin. BG9 was executed by Yuha as he was in the manga, and the Bambi show up to the Gin-Basby fight, and Gigi notices Rangiku's body. She salivates at turning her into a zombie. She moves to do it, but almost gets cut in half from Gin's Bankai. This distraction gets Gin burned, even though he was able to still dodge the flames. Gin's left arm is burned now, and the sleeve is gone. Gin quickly realizes he's outnumbered, tired, burnt, and slightly damaged from his fight with Kangdu. Gin has no choice but to retreat, but if he does, he knows Rangiku and Toshiro are guaranteed dead. Because Gin has thrown off the timing of the original manga, and his added spirit energy messes with the spirit density that was keeping people from finding each other, Shinji and Omaida meet up sooner. So Shinji reaches a new meta level and reverses what happens in the manga. Shinji, Momo, Omaida get the drop on Basby this time. Using Sakanade at the moment before they attack, Gin, Shinji save the day. Momo grabs Toshiro and Gin grabs Rangiku and they escape, trying to find a Squad 4 pop-up triage. Things play out similarly as they do in the manga between Gremi, Kenpachi, and the Sternritters. Basby tries to follow Shinji and Gin while the Bambis head to where Gremi and Kenpachi are fighting. When Basby feels Ichigo's spirit energy, he heads towards where they are. The events elsewhere play out a bit differently than before. The battle of the remaining Gote vs Sternritter goes differently than before, because Giselle doesn't have Toshiro as a zombie. She plays dead sooner, waiting for Kensei and Rose. Instead of Kensei saving Byakuya, it is the hollow Kuretsuchi corpse that saves Byakuya from Pepe and Shuhei. Kensei and Rose will show up later, still under Gigi's control. Gin and Shinji's group end up at Kisuke and Mayuri's command center, where they try to heal who they can. Initially, no one wanted to heal Gin's injuries, but Kisuke saw this and took it upon himself to heal Gin himself. This puts other people off. Gin and Shinji don't speak to each other. Shinji has nothing nice to say, and no amount of apology would suffice from Gin. Gin says thank you to Kisuke, surprising him and anyone who heard it. Shinji then confronts Kisuke when he's done. Why help him? Kisuke responds without any of his cheery tone, because he's our ally for now, and we need everyone at 100%. Those devices also keep him from hurting anyone. Kisuke then lowers his voice. It may not make any difference to you, but Gin was only out to kill Aizen. He worked for Aizen to get close to him. That's why Aizen killed him. Gin tried to kill Aizen and take the Hogoku back. Shinji quips back, you believe that? He was probably trying to get it for himself. Kisuke shakes his head. No, for Matsumoto. This news is shocking to Shinji and doesn't sit well with him, nor did it sit well with Soifone, who's listening. Shinji can't help but see him as an enemy. When Hiyori and the Visor show up, things get even more heated. Hiyori physically attacks Gin. She slaps and punches him for what he did to her in FKT and 100 years ago. Gin doesn't retaliate, not just because he can't, but he knows he deserves it. Gin may have had good intentions, but that isn't enough. Hiyori yells for Hachi to heal him after she's done. When some of the other Soul Reapers show up, they simply ignore Gin's presence, except Kenpachi. He walks right over to Gin and starts talking to him. The conversation isn't very deep, simply consisting of, you didn't get weaker, and want to have a go for old time's sake. After this, the story is the same until the Aizen reveal. Gin had gone with the others up top to stop the flow of Black Ryatsu falling from Yuha, and Gin becomes visibly upset like everyone else when Aizen shows up and saves them. Aizen saves them, and he forgoes all conversation with the others and even ignores their questions and looks right at Gin. Shunsui addresses the Gote like he did in the manga. Aizen squints at Gin with one of his eyes in an unpleasant surprise. My former traitor's lieutenant. How nostalgic. Gin smirks back at him. If you really want to get nostalgic, I could put another hole in your chest. Aizen grins at his threat. You first. Gin draws his Zanpakuto and Aizen flexes his spiritual pressure. Shunsui tells them both to calm down and everyone is surprised at the animosity. The rest plays out somewhere similar to how it did in the manga. Aizen uses the Kurohitsugi, and the Quincy show up and knock out Aizen. This time, Gigi still has Rose and Kensei, and Gin looks at Basby, and Basby looks at Gin. Basby shoots Nanana, killing him, and makes the offer to help them get to the Soul King Palace. Byakuya demands that Gigi hand over Kensei and Rose, and she refuses. They negotiate, and Gigi agrees to let them go if Mayuri gives her 2 of the Arankar zombies. When the main group goes up with Head Captain Shunsui, Gin notices Mayuri sneaking off, and Kenpachi comes out of the bathroom, and he too notices Mayuri sneaking off and follows him. Toshiro and Rangiku stay with the main group, not seeing Gin leave. When they get up to the Soul King Palace, they notice Gin is missing, and Toshiro assumes he's trying to run. He grabs for the remote switch, but Kisuke stops him. He points out that Mayuri and Kenpachi are also missing. Kenpachi, Ikaku, Yumichika, and Yamada surprise Mayuri like they did in the manga. This time, Gin pops up as well. He actually enjoys the bickering between Kenpachi and Mayuri and lets them go at it. They continue their walk forward until they run into Pernida. Pernida blocks their path, and just like before, Kenpachi leaps in and nearly splits Pernida in half before having his arm wrenched. Kenpachi rips off his own arm like before and throws it to the ground. Kenpachi also gets his leg snapped, like he did in the manga. Gin this time recognizes Mayuri goading and pulls Kenpachi to safety and restrains him before too much damage is done. He wraps him up in a cloth that he found at HQ and Mayuri tells Gin not to get involved. Gin sits on the ledge of a building watching Mayuri take on Pernida while Ikkaku and Yumichika try to hold down Kenpachi so Yamada can try and heal him. Because Gin doesn't interfere, the fight plays out the same. Mayuri's arm is torn up and he has to restructure it. His modified Bankai eats Pernida. Pernida bursts out. Even Nemu saves Mayuri both times when she does in the manga. When Pernida uses the Mutai Fukuin Shotai ability to surprise Mayuri, Gin for the first time in the fight is worried. With one Pernida arm left, Nemu begins to use the Spirit Rasp ability to destroy Pernida. However, like in the manga, the broken pieces spawn eyes and shoot their nerves into Nemu. But this time, Gin steps in, severing the nerves and taking Nemu's body back to Mayuri. Mayuri is the only thing she can say while crying from the pain of her body twisting and crunching. Gin looks back at Mayuri and yells for him to save her. Mayuri breaks from his shock, and knowing it's too late, he takes Nemu's brain before her whole body is rolled into a ball of flesh. Pernida rears up over the building they're on, and Gin realizes this is the last arm remaining. It's time.
Bankai Kamishini no Yari.
Blasts Pernida straight through the eye. He retracts the blade. Gin knows Pernida can sever limbs and regrow them, so the timing needs to be perfect. Gin firmly grips his Bankai and places the handle to his chest.
Kamishini no Yari. Buto.
He blasts another hole in Pernida, and then another, and then another. This can't kill me, weak soul weeper, Pernida yells in confidence. Gin smiles.
Korose. Kamishini no Yari.
The several shards Gin left all activate at the same time, dissolving Pernida almost instantly. Pernida makes one last effort to kill Gin by throwing a dissolving nerve at him. Gin dodges and it hits Mayuri's legs. Mayuri's legs snap and crack like they do in the manga. Mayuri then has himself and Kenpachi placed in the regenerative tanks just like he did in the manga. Gin decides to go on ahead with Yumichika and Ikkaku. When he is far enough away from them, he tells Yumichika and Ikkaku that they need to step up. Gin looks at his Zanpakuto and he notes the structure of his sword is significantly compromised. He didn't think he'd ever use his Bankai's special ability so much. The Askin fight plays out the same. However, the Gerard fight actually gets worse. Because Toshiro doesn't come later and Rangiku is also present, Gerard is fighting a stronger team at the start. Gerard gets to a larger form than he did in the manga. This forces Toshiro into his matured Bankai form a lot quicker. Because of the extra help, the Vizards stay up longer. Because of the dire situation, Love uses his Bankai and his mask at the same time, hoping to incinerate all of Gerard so he can't come back. Toshiro in his matured form freezes Gerard and the flames blow most of Gerard away. This time, however, Gerard activates his Vollständig and begins to take all of them apart. The Gote forces are losing. Gin's group eventually shows up to the Gerard fight, and a lot of people have taken out. Gin immediately jumps into the fray and uses a Hado, Soren Sokatsui, to keep Gerard from crushing the Vizards. He joins in with the other captains left, which is Byakuya and Toshiro. Rangiku pulls herself from the rubble and sees Gin fighting alongside his former colleagues. This makes her smile. He isn't sporting his usual smirk. Gin has changed and he's taking this fight seriously. Byakuya, without looking at Gin, asks him a question in his usual stoic tone. Gin, why did you follow Sosuke Aizen? Gin drops his head, takes in a deep breath, and tells Toshiro and Byakuya the truth. I saw Aizen's plan from the start. His goons attacked Rangiku while we were living in the Rukongai. He stole something precious from her, something from her soul, and fed it to his Hogyoku. I swore revenge and joined the Gote under the pretense of working for Aizen, but I was just following orders so that one day I could kill him. After everyone was defeated, I took my shot and I died. I can't make up for what I did, but hopefully this is a start. No more words are exchanged, and they continue to try and survive against the monster that is Gerard. Gin, however, can't use his Bankai because of overuse, and he's now at a massive disadvantage. He knows if he uses his ability, his Zanpakuto may shatter. Rangiku attempts to help by covering Gerard's eyes with her Hinako, but Gerard blows it away. He releases a heavy blast, knocking Toshiro and Byakuya back. He goes and takes the opportunity to smash Rangiku with his blade. Gin anticipates this. He sees the attack, and he knows he has to use his Bankai, or else they're both done. He cuts in front of Rangiku and uses his strongest ability.
神死にの槍武闘錬人
He thrusts the attack forward, putting everything he has into it. The blitzing, immeasurable, repeated power of Gin's Bankai attack takes most of the force off the swing. But Gerard pushes through, and he pushes, and unfortunately, the blade gives way and shatters. The massive swing continues, slamming into Gin and knocking Rangiku back. Rangiku recovers, and as she does, she looks over to Gin and sees him cut in half. Rangiku rushes over, having flashes of what happened back to Fake Karakura Town. She kneels over his body, and the tears start streaming. Gin reaches up his bloody hand and touches the necklace on her chest. "You are in the way again." Rangiku laughs through her tears, and he smiles at her, and with his dying effort, he writes the kanji for love on her chest. He finally passes. Rangiku stands up, and her Zanpakuto pulses. Bankai. And that's all, folks. The rest of the story plays out as it does in the manga. Gerard falls to the Ash Valin. Ichigo, Aizen, and Uryu defeat Yuha. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you want to see what I think Rangiku's Bankai is, or loves, you'll have to wait for my Lieutenants Get a Bankai video. Please remember to like and subscribe. Tell me what you thought. Please drop a recommendation for the next What If. And the news on the giveaway is I will be giving out 3 Pop Funkos of your choice. I have Dr. Fate, First Form Cell, and a glow-in-the-dark Bane Luchador mask. So if any of you are interested, when I get to the 100 sub mark, please comment if you're interested to win it, and I'll send it to you. You'll pick the one that you want, and we'll be all good. Y'all have a good day. Bye.